Now this story will give you goosebumps. This story takes place at a home that was built around 1904. One day, a guy named Henry and his friend Bill were leaving to head to school when Henry realized he left his lunch inside his house. Henry quickly runs back inside to grab it, and as soon as he enters the kitchen, out of the corner of his eye, he saw it. A shadowy figure standing right at his peripheral vision, watching him. Henry was hit with an intense feeling of dread, and in a panic, he yelled out a profanity at the entity. Henry grabbed his food and ran out the door, but still felt that uneasy presence the whole time as he made his way down the driveway. He climbed back inside the car and said, "Let's go." His friend Bill then looked at him and asked, "Hey, what about your brother? Is he coming with us?" Henry was confused and told Bill that his brother had been at work all morning and then asked him why he thought that. Bill paused and then asked, "Then who was that following behind you as you left the house?" What are your thoughts?
So I have a story time I wanted to share with you guys that I had completely forgotten about until now when I once again hear footsteps from upstairs and I am home alone. So every morning at about 7 a.m. I take my daughter to school. It was already past 7 o'clock. It was getting late, so I yelled for my daughter upstairs and I said, "I'll just wait for you in the car." I very clearly heard when she said, "Okay." I could hear footsteps going from her room to the bathroom, and then I heard the blow dryer turn on, which made me kind of roll my eyes because I'm like, great, now we're going to be even later because you're not even done with your hair. I walked to the car. As I'm walking to the car, on the way out, there's a second bathroom downstairs that's right by the back door. As I'm walking past that bathroom, I see her coming out of the bathroom, and I'm like, "What the heck? Where did you come from?" She's like, "What do you mean?" "I thought you were upstairs. I heard you upstairs." Mind you, there's nowhere else that's home. I'm 100% convinced that we ourselves can haunt our own places with our essence, with our energy. It stays behind. Every morning like clockwork, she goes from her room to the bathroom, turns the blow dryer on. This morning, even though she wasn't upstairs, I heard it clear as day, her going from her room to the bathroom, turning the blow dryer on. I'm not hearing things. I'm not going crazy. I mean, at least I hope I'm not, but there was no one upstairs. How do you explain that?
A really strange story was the picture that came out of the Veranda cruise liner. Large ship that went down at the Atlantic Ocean in 2014, and nobody really knew why at the time. There were very few survivors of this, and the news kind of mulled over this for months. They were doing deep dives onto the ship to look for very sinister evidence and relics. Of those who did survive, they all kind of shared this very strange story because they claimed they saw something kind of unexplainable in the water. For a while, it just kind of continued as that. It was just a story. These things kept going on. People kept diving down there trying to collect relics, evidence, anything they could from the ship, and they found this. The phone of one of the passengers who died, and even though it was waterlogged for a long time, it was still semi-functional. On the phone, this was a photo that was apparently found. Leaked from an evidence bank in 2017, and it's hard to refute what this picture is. An unexplained shot of just someone standing in the water, eerily enough taken on the same day the ship sank.
Serbian dancing lady is real. Now, what you need to know is that this footage isn't new. One of the first sightings was from 2019, and it was followed with local media reports. Back then, an eyewitness from Serbia claimed a woman wearing a national dress was spotted jumping out in front of cars and in front of people with a knife and making threats to them. Here is the footage of this woman.
I think a lot of you guys also feel like our timelines are messed up because so many people were shocked to know that Eminem and Picasso were alive at the same time. But there are so many more of these weird overlaps, and I could truly do this forever. And a quick reminder that if you love the spooky and dark, you'll love the podcast. You made us number 12 on the charts. First up, Oprah, Einstein, also alive at the same time. Barbara Walters, Anne Frank, and Martin Luther King were all born in the same year. Joe Biden was actually born closer to Lincoln's second inauguration than to his own. The last dodo bird sighting happened after the witch trials had already started in the United States. If he wanted to, Van Gogh could have drank a Coca-Cola while he painted. Nintendo was also a year old when Van Gogh died. And lastly, when Harvard was founded, they didn't offer calculus because calculus had not been invented yet.
These are secrets the police don't want the public to know. Part 1. Up first, when police pull you over, they will always touch the back end of your car. They do this to leave their DNA and fingerprints on your car. So if something bad happens during the stop, the vehicle could be identified and found. This technique has saved the lives of many cops. Next up, if you're ever taken to a police station, they will most likely offer you a glass of water. But you should never accept it. This is because they will use that drink to get your DNA and fingerprints. They don't even need a warrant for it because the glass of water is their own property. Next, if you ever see one of these on your car, you better be careful, because it means the police are most likely tracking your location. It's called a star chase, and it's launched from police cars onto suspected vehicles. There's a sticky substance on the one side to make it stick to your car, and a GPS tracker on the other, so the cops could always monitor your car and know where you are.
So I have a scary story time that I highly don't recommend for you to play out in the open. Put your AirPods in, put your headphones, whatever you have to do. Just don't have this playing because it is very dark and you may call upon something you may not want in your space. The person who submitted this wishes to remain anonymous. For the sake of the story, we're going to call her Nelly. So this story took place about 2 years ago, right at the peak of pandemic time. Right around that time, Nelly and her son would wake up with scratches all over them. The scratches would always come in threes. They would also hear knocking at night that also came in threes. You guys all know what the 3 means. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. This is the D word mocking the Trinity. They then start hearing voices and footsteps coming from upstairs while they were downstairs home alone. The final straw was when Nelly's son told her there was a painting on the wall that was moving, so she decided to take it down, only to turn around and find that same painting set in the middle of the room with her sweater balled right on top of it. At this point, she decided to get some professional help and reached out to some paranormal investigators. At first, they came to her home to interview her to make sure that she wasn't having a mental breakdown and also to try to debunk some of her claims. After they were assured that she was perfectly fine, they decided to set up an investigation. They told her that they would be back within 2 days. In those 2 days from the time the investigators visited the home, the activity in the house amped up drastically. The morning that the investigators were set to arrive, Nelly decided to drop her son off at the babysitter's house. Now, anytime Nelly spent time at that house, she always had background noise playing because she was always afraid of what she may hear. Being that they were getting ready to leave, everything was off in the house, and as Nelly was upstairs just finishing up with getting ready, she hears a woman's voice talking to her son downstairs. She yells down to her son and asks him who he's talking to, when she clearly hears a woman's voice say, "Don't tell her." Immediately, Nelly ran downstairs and went to grab her son. Now, her son is normally a very calm and sweet boy, but the minute she picked him up and said it's time to go, he completely lost it and had the biggest tantrum of his life. She practically had to fight to get him into the car. His arms kept wailing. He kept trying to do everything in his power to prevent from leaving the house. Finally, Nelly had to set him down. The minute she set him down, he ran to the garden and picked up a flower. And in the creepiest voice possible, he said, "We have some visitors coming. I have a gift for them." Nelly felt sick to her stomach. She picked him up and put him in the car. When they were about 30 seconds down the road, it was almost like he snapped out of a trance and he went back to his normal self. They both ended up going out to eat. When they were out, Nelly's son did not mention anything about what had just happened. But unfortunately, in the craziness of trying to get her son out, she realized she forgot her overnight bag, which meant that she would have to go back to the house. Now I'm gonna have to do a part 2 because TikTok took away my 10-minute long videos, so I'll post this right after this.
Can these duendes, these muñequitos, really walk? The video has about 3 million views. So this YouTuber is with friends and they're filming a video about duendes. Supposedly, if you hold their hands, they can walk with you. Es neta? They can also manipulate their face. In the video, the duende just like smiles out of nowhere. They put the muñequito above the radio and the radio starts to output some noises.
Se oyeron unas voces. Oye,
Míralo, la ha cogido.
¿Fashan?
Mira.
And at the end of the video, there's a fan in the room that just turns on by itself.
Se prendió el ventilador, repito, solo.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit skeptical. I think I would have to buy one, these muñequitos, just to test it out. What do you think? Is the video real or is it just one's imagination?
It's not my fault that you're lonely. I know you feel like having conversations, but please don't put that shit on me. No, this happy hour don't need complications. I'm doing great, I'm feeling fine. Don't need your worries on my mind. No, all by myself or another one. nobody.